Alright, thank you for making it this far, getting to the lead guitarist battle plan video. We got a lot of things in here I want to talk to you about. And a little bit about me, I'm Matt. I'm the guy behind Play It Loud and PlayItLoudBlog.com. Whether you're here from YouTube or here through signing up to my email list, I really appreciate you being here today. My videos have been kind of long. The past couple times I've done this, I'm a little new to doing these presentations and going through the tabs, just through this kind of I don't know however you call this method of doing it. So let's just get right to it. As you can see, I have 15 tips and insights to bring your skills up to the A level, and there should be a PDF link below the page that you happen to be watching this on. Again, if you're watching this through YouTube, there should be a link in the description. Like I said, let's just get right into it. Through this entire presentation, I'm going to be referencing, let me see if I can get it up here. Sorry. A tab I found here on Stairway to Heaven, you know, one of the greatest, most praised guitar solos ever. I'm going to be, as I go through each one of these insights, I'm going to be going back and forth showing you, okay, look at this part, and blah, 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 blah. To try to give you some insights. I'm also going to be going through this PDF I happen to have of the guitar solo and all of Stairway to Heaven. This is a PDF of all of Led Zeppelin 4, of course, which is where Stairway to Heaven is from. And yep, it starts right here. If you can see where my mouse is, dun, 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 you know. Hopefully you know how it goes. If not, yeah, you should stop this video. Go listen to Stairway to Heaven. Alright, before this gets too longer, let's get right into it. Alright, lead guitar is about, yes, great technique and, I put that in capital letters, and note choice. You've got to be able to play well, of course, but scale exercises don't help you choose the right notes. I mean, I'm going through a scale book right now. Actually, Speed Mechanics by Troy Stetina. Great book. You can find that on Amazon if you like some great scale exercises to go through, not just a big book of scales. You know, you want to be able to play it really well, but I mean, a question I always had when I was going through tabs like Stairway to Heaven and everything else was, okay, how do they know to play this note and not this note? Why is playing this note after that note make it sound better? And such. We'll get a little bit into that. That's a huge subject, of course. I don't want to make this you know, a 3-hour-long video for you. So I'm just going to give you a taste of what that's about. Just start asking yourself how this note works with another one. You're not going to get the answers right away. It's going to take some real thinking, and you'll have to play through these licks or just through whatever song you have to be playing to figure that out. But if you don't start doing this, you're going to be in big trouble because, I don't know why, I left that out. Sorry about that. Well, you're going to be in big trouble simply because, I mean, you know, you don't want to be left with a bunch of scale exercises that are going to become part of your lead guitar technique. You know, whenever you want to write your own solos and play them in your own songs and such, I mean, you don't want to be like Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix, or I don't know, you may want to be. Hopefully you want to play with your own style and not just, you know, to rip off everybody who you happen to listen to. Because, alright, well, the rest of this video will be about this in some way. Again, sorry if I'm stuttering or smacking my lips. I'm still brand new to doing these YouTube videos, alright? Alright, number 2, think in terms of rhythm. Don't know time signatures and eighth notes? Learn. And you can search on Google for time signatures and eighth notes, and there'll be plenty of places that'll tell you about it. I mean, I do have some materials myself at that link, shop.playloudblog.com, specifically my music theory book. It'll show you all about that. It'll show you in tabs too, because it's kind of difficult to. Let me go to the Ultimate Guitar tab I found. See, just looking at a tab like this, it's not going to tell you, is this a quarter note, is that an eighth note, is that a 16th note, unless you already have those music theory principles ingrained into your skull, into your mind whenever you happen to be hearing a guitar solo. You're not going to know immediately. It's just all going to be, you know, oh, that's just the way it sounds. So, I mean, a lot of people do that. That's good. but you'll have even more control and even more insight into what's going on here if you happen to know how to go to something like this and see, okay, I mean, you know, there's the tabs right there, and this is, of course, a really excellent presentation of the material. It's all 16th notes there, and 16 notes to an 8th note, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, I took the time to learn how to read sheet music because, I mean, I like a lot of music, and not all music is going to be in guitar tab, of course, because not all music is on guitar. But it gives you so many more insights than just that tab could. Because, I mean, music is all about how you combine quarter notes and 8th notes and 16th notes and triplets and all sorts of stuff together and place it over, you know, the chord symbols here. We'll get into the chord symbols in a second, I believe. Let's see what else I got in the slide here. Yep, part of lead guitar will always be about, you know, I basically just said that. This is why lots of people swear by a metronome. But, you know, being a good guitar player isn't always about exact rhythmic precision. You know, unless you're playing, you want to play note for note, you know, Steve Vai solos or, you know, that Stairway to Heaven solo, whatever. Yes, it will be about that. But, you know, what I mean is, you know, a lot of really cool solos and really cool riffs don't stay exactly, you know, they don't hit the first beat when they're supposed to or the third beat when they're supposed to. They mix it up. They use notes that are a little offbeat and a little bit behind the beat or ahead of the beat or so on. It's hard to talk about that in a general sense because we're not going over a riff that does that right now. But as you can see in the last point here, lots of memorable riffs and solos use offbeats and unusual rhythm patterns. I say Metallica, question mark? Yep, they do it all the time. All the time. I mean, go check out the Master Puppets riffs right after this if you have time, and you'll see that you know that one riff that goes that one doesn't quite fit into a 4/4 time signature that we're all used to hearing a lot by now. You know, and again, if you don't know time signatures, go and learn it. It's actually not a very complicated principle, and I mean, it'll just help you understand a lot more about the music that you already know. Okay, like I said, I want to get through this quickly. Third insight, think in terms of intervals as well as chords and scales. I think in the book I said don't think in chords and scales as much, but that's impossible to do. I mean, because when I was going through this, of course, I saw, A minor pentatonic. I mean, you know, if you haven't yet gotten into lead guitar a lot, or if you've done it a little bit, you may have seen like, oh God, that pentatonic scale is everywhere. Everywhere. God, you know, give me a break from it. You know, but there's a lot more to what's going on in this solo and in every solo, even the most simple solos you can possibly encounter, whether it's David Gilmour's or Kurt Cobain's or whoever, I don't know. There's going to be a lot more going on in a solo than just the scale they decide to use, or, I mean, you might not even be able to pick out a certain scale pattern entirely, so you don't want to rely on your knowledge of scales, and but then you'll get into chords and chord shapes, and, you know, it might not even be understandable through that, but you can't understand everything through intervals, because, I mean, see like right here, like going from fret 5 to fret 8 to fret 5, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's moving in intervals. You know, there's distance between this. Intervals is the distance between one note and another, and, you know, intervals make up chords. They make up scales. So, you know, point being, the more you know about intervals and how they sorry, let me get back to the thing here, and how they make up chords and scales and chord progressions and guitar parts and piano parts and so on. Again, the better a guitarist, and especially a lead guitarist, you'll be. Skipping notes, for instance, if you know about some of Paul Gilbert's stuff, where he does this really cool skip note arpeggios, I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure the exact name. That's basically what it is. I mean, it's all about intervals. Arpeggios themselves are all about intervals. You know, it's basically a string of major and minor thirds. Almost every interval is. And lots of the riffs that you recall and love are memorable because they skip notes. because they use intervals, because they use wide intervals, because one note in a part of a riff, whether it's an AC/DC riff or a Metallica riff or whatever, it'll go a wide distance, and that distance can be measured by intervals. And if you more than likely went through a page where you will get a link to get access to the One Theory Trick book. It's free. There should be a link to it if you sign up for my email list. If not, just comment below this YouTube video or whatever, and I'll make sure you get it. It's free. You don't have to pay me anything to get that, and it goes through intervals a little bit more. All right, moving on. All right, pick 3 guitar players you want to learn from. You can get tab books of almost anyone out there. There's no excuse for this. Go on Amazon. Go on GuitarCenter.com. Go on Musician's Friend. Wherever you like to go and get your music stuff, they definitely sell music books. You can get anything you want. My favorite guitar players I learned from when I was starting out was Slash of Guns N' Roses, of course, Eddie Van Halen of Van Halen, and Marty Friedman of Megadeth, and he's also very famous for having played with Jason Becker in a band called Coffany and then going on solo. And then it grew to Wes Montgomery, the great jazz guitarist, and Chet Atkins, a really great country guitarist and producer, and Nuno Bettencourt of Extreme, and now he's actually the touring guitarist for Rihanna. Badass guitar player. If you haven't checked him out, please go and take time to do that. There's probably videos, there are videos actually, all over YouTube of him just wailing. And he's a great rhythm player and a great lead player. I'm going to get into that, to the relationship between those two things later. But if you've never dived into lead guitar before, I believe this is the proper way to go about it, in my opinion. Because simply, you're just going to be overwhelmed. I mean, if you had the money to buy, 10 books or 20 books or more, of one of, Randy Rhoads, and then Pink Floyd, David Gilmour's stuff, and then Jimmy Page's stuff, and then Jimi Hendrix's stuff, and then George Harrison of the Beatles, or I don't know. Sorry if those are too old school for you. Maybe you're more into more modern rock type stuff, but hopefully you get the point. It's going to be very overwhelming. Just pick 1 or 2 or 3, or, I mean, that's not a hard rule. If you want to go 4 or 5, of course, no big deal. There's no way I can check up on you and make sure you're following that rule. But I think it's a good guideline to go by. All right, moving on. All right, have at least 30 phrases, licks, solos, etc. in your repertoire. I got to admit to you, this is something that I'm actually needing to work on myself. I mean, I mentioned Troy Statina's book. Let me spell that last name for you. It's Stetina. Ste and then Tina, basically. Speed Mechanics for Guitar is what it's called. You can find it on Amazon. It's or maybe Guitar Center if you have a Guitar Center where you live. I've been going through that and learning more phrases and licks and such. Even though I went through a lot of that, I actually haven't been playing as much lately. I'm just getting back into it. And naturally you'll forget things, but that's exactly what I'm thinking right now. I want to have things that I just know from memory if I want to play for my friends, or if I just want to practice, or if I don't feel like going through a tab book at the time too, because I know it's kind of frustrating to constantly be referencing a tab book or a guitar tab or such. I mean, just start cataloging all the cool stuff that inspired you to learn guitar. Don't hold back. But learn Yngwie if you want. Learn Joe Satriani or Steve Vai if you want. I mean, I started learning Marty Friedman before my first year was over. I mean, I couldn't play it very well, but it did teach me a lot about guitar. Just attempting to do that. And it's good to have high standards. Better yet, make a file of everything you want to learn. Me talking, you probably already read a lot of this stuff, but I just want to make sure that I at least say everything I got to say. This will all become your lead guitar style after you figure out how it all works. I mean, and hopefully this is helping you at least start to notice what you got to do in order to figure it all out. All right, moving on. Practice on acoustic guitar as much as you do on electric. I know buying guitars is expensive. That's the really hard part about having this obsession or hobby or whatever you want to call it. Is that you got to pay at least $100 for at least I don't know, what some would call a not so great guitar, and that's tough. But I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's all about technique and how you put the notes together. But okay, why should you get an acoustic guitar as well as an electric? You can't hide your mistakes on this, and it toughens your chops up. I mean, playing some really fast licks on acoustic is just not as easy as the electric for obvious reasons. The strings are usually bigger and the necks are wider and such. But I mean, I've noticed a lot of little things with it. Like, I noticed lately that my upstrokes, when I'm alternate picking a lick and I come up from an upstroke, those haven't been as strong as I thought they were. So I've been focusing on that. I'm getting a little better at it. And it's all because I practice on acoustic. It'll also help you balance the need to go fast with the need for musicality. Because, I mean, playing on acoustic, I mean, it doesn't sound as cool playing fast unless you've really worked on it. Really, worked on putting in some melodic stuff in there, some interval stuff or arpeggio stuff or whatever. Those two factors don't appear together as much as you think. The musicality and the need to go fast. A lot of the most musical stuff is, of course, the stuff that's slow. You think of vocal melodies. You can remember vocal melodies because, there's not as many notes and it's a lot slower and it has all that interval stuff that I talked about. For instance, though, moving on to the last point. If you can sweep pick efficiently on the acoustic, for instance, you'll kill it when you pick up for your electric. Trust me, I hate doing sweep picking on acoustic, but once I picked up the electric, I was like, man, it's so much easier to rip on this thing now that I just took a little bit of effort to do that. All right. But experiment with different techniques. Use sweep picking over a pop song progression. Taylor Swift's new song called Shake It Off is out right now. I mean, I don't know. You may not be into that. You may be like, oh, God, this guy's into Taylor Swift. He's totally not really into this. He's not for real, but whatever. I mean, just keep, that's who I am. I like a lot of music. Throw in funk or reggae rhythms into a country song. I've actually always thought it'd be cool to, take a bunch of Garth Brooks songs and, make them reggae-ish. I don't know, it might be kind of weird, but it's something fun to do, Last thing, see if you can use melodic blues bends to replicate melodies you hear on the radio. It's actually something I picked up from a guitar magazine a while back. I learned that Carlos Santana, he built a lot of his style by listening to Aretha Franklin, and Aretha Franklin specifically, I remember him mentioning. I don't remember any other names. But, soul singers, R&B singers, they can really sing. And it's really powerful stuff. So if you can replicate that in some way on your guitar, then, man, it's just another weapon you got in your arsenal. So, experiment with different techniques, basically. Learn new genres. Learn from a guitar player that, you may have never thought you would learn from before. Wes Montgomery was that to me. Learn the differences between genres. A genre becomes a genre when it has lots of predictable musical nuances. Rock music has a lot of power chords in it. Country music uses a lot of seventh chords and major key progressions. A lot of it's in a major key. I go more into country music here. It has lots of banjo, multi-part vocal harmonies, pedal steel guitar, mandolin fiddle. Guitar players will use double stops, major pentatonic scales, pedal steel bends to recreate the sounds of those instruments. And that's a really big subject going in there. I just want to give you an example. And there's a whole set of things you could do to make your sound more bluesy, more metal, more pop or funk. You get it. Every genre has a formula you can replicate, though it takes time to integrate all the principles involved. I mean, I didn't just wake up one day, pick up my guitar, and figure out, oh, country guitar players use a lot of double stops and major pentatonic scales. Oh wow, I'm a genius. No, that's not what happened. I just took a lot of time to do it, but hopefully by making this video, I'm saving you a lot of the time that I took to do that. And of course, if you have any questions about this, just hit me up in the comments or send me an email, whatever. I'll be happy to help. And yes, this is a big thing. I mean, identify the chord progression you'll be playing over. I mean, that goes back to thinking in intervals and and not so much in chords and scales. I mean, even though that's chord progression there, of course. But I mean, we'll go back to here. You know, as you can see, the solo is really going, but most guitar players will just be thinking, okay, I'm just going to pay attention to this part right here. I'm not playing the rhythm part. You know, I can't read music, so I'm just going to use a tab and so on. And I'll listen and use my ear and such. But the thing is, I mean, if you're just wanting to learn how to play the solo, then great. You know, it's all there for you, line for line, note for note. But if you really want to learn, okay, how did Jimmy do this and do that? Why is he using this scale instead of this other scale that I heard could work in this situation? I mean, this is the biggest clue right here. That little triangle there, that's supposed to be a major 7. You don't see that a lot in guitar tabs. But that's F major 7, A minor. Yeah, A minor with the G in the bass. That's what that means there. And then back to F major 7. It's a fairly simple, fairly simple chord progression. Both those chords, F major 7 and A minor, have a lot of the same notes. A minor has the notes A, C, and E in it. F major 7 has the notes F, A, C, and E in it. Yeah, basically the same chord, just F major 7 has an F in it. But that's besides the point. That's, you know, a lot of theory stuff. Maybe you don't feel like learning that right now. You just want to get the lead guitar stuff. But the thing is, though, I mean, if you know that those 4 notes are what composes F major 7, you look here, okay, where is he playing F? Where is he playing A? Where is he playing C? And such like that. It'll give you a lot more insight into it. And of course, you'll have to know your fretboard. I mentioned that in one of my other videos already, and if you haven't gone and learned your fretboard yet, please do. It's just, I don't know how you're going to become a really great guitar player, a great lead guitar player, without knowing your fretboard, without knowing what notes to put together, and what notes should go over F major 7 and what shouldn't really go over that as much in A minor, and so on. It's just good strategy. It saves a lot of time too, because I mean you can really just white knuckle it and try to sit around for a long time, come up with something cool over some chord progression you may come up with. But it's just easier. You can come up with something really cool if you just know, like I said, I know all the notes of that and all the notes of that. So these notes in some combination would work really well, and it'll suggest that harmony. But that's besides points. I just want to make that there. All right, I basically already said that. The more you know about harmony, the better prepared you'll be for this step. Because harmony is something that doesn't oddly get talked about a lot when music theory and guitar is talked about. Harmony is just about how you combine notes together, how you combine chords together, which is basically what lead guitar is all about. All that songwriting is about. Putting notes together so that you can create a catchy melody, a ripping guitar solo, whatever. Alright, let's go on to the next thing, see what I got. Come on now. Yeah, start learning the art of melody. Melody is about using less notes, using longer note values like quarter notes or half notes, and skipping intervals. Remember skipping intervals? We just talked about that. The best place to start learning this is your favorite songs, which you can then start playing on guitar. We'll go back to, let's go just to the regular guitar tab. You know, Jimmy Page is known for his really melodic blues licks. Like right here at the beginning, you know, there's the really fast part. It goes, dan, 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 dan. You get it. That wasn't exactly on there. I'm sorry. You know, bash me in the comments if you want. But hopefully you get the idea. You know, like I said, I hope you know the solo very well. Most of us do. But that little part right there, that's a longer note there. I want to say that's maybe a quarter note or so, and then that bend there, that's almost like a singer, you know, because singers, you know, a lot of their notes, a lot of the notes that a singer will sing, of course, they connect together seamlessly. You know, they flow together. But on guitar, you know, you're picking every single note, so it sounds a little bit broken up. But that's the characteristic sound of guitar. You know, but point being, I'm sorry again, you know, I'll mess up my speech a little. Just start thinking more like more in the vein of, you know, I want to create a cool melody instead of, you know, a really fast little guitar lick here. I mean, those are really cool, and they help put all that melodic stuff in context, but the things that really grab your audience are just the melodic stuff. And let's see here. Alright, let's move on. Avoid the trap of matching the perfect scale to the perfect chord. One scale can work with lots of different chords. And I say here, think of E minor and its 3 notes, E, G, and B. Not only can E minor, the E minor scale, work over the E minor chord, but also G major and C major and A minor and B minor and D major, etc. And those are all chords, by the way. Well, scales too. Never mind. Sorry. You know, and it's that way because they share a lot of the same notes. And we'll go back to or Stairway to Heaven tab here. Like I said, F major 7 is basically the exact same chord as A minor. A minor doesn't have F in it. F major 7 has F, A, C, and E in it. And like I said, A minor has A, C, and E in it. So in this case, Jimmy using the A minor pentatonic scale works very, very well. But, you know, he has to accent the F major 7 in some ways to make it stand out, you know, to bring that harmony into mind. Because as you can see here, he plays F. That's the 8th fret on the A string, which is the note F, of course. He deliberately went to that note because he knows, okay, the chord progression. There's the chord progression. I got to do that. But this is the point I'm making right now. This scale doesn't quite match what I wanted to play over right here, over F major 7. So I better throw in this F note that's not really a part of the A minor pentatonic scale. Sorry if I'm throwing a lot of things at you, but the minor pentatonic scale is a pretty basic thing, and most guitar players know it, so I'm just assuming that a lot of you guys have had some familiarity with it. Although it's not easy to come up with your own ways of matching them up, it's essential to getting a grip on the whole process. And just going through that solo a little bit more, you can see why, I hope. Why is it doing that? Come on. Alright, yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier. Become a good rhythm guitarist. This goes back to learning all about rhythms earlier, you know, 8th notes and 16th notes and triplets. The more aware you are of all that, the more control and the more creative options you'll have when it comes time to make your own solo. I have some examples here. Malcolm Young of AC/DC, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Kurt Cobain, James Hetfield, and Dave Mustaine are just a few great rhythm players to learn from. I used to not like Kurt Cobain very much, but I mean, objectively speaking, he is a pretty good guitar player. I mean, he never set out to be a Steve Vai or a Jimi Hendrix or whoever. He was just, you know, being Kurt Cobain, and he did that very well. I think a lot of people agree with that, but you know, that's something we can argue over another video. Point being, you know, the better you are at rhythm, the better you'll be at lead guitar. The better you are at lead guitar, the better you'll be at rhythm guitar. It's a circle. You know, I even like to think that lead guitar is just a more complex form of rhythm guitar playing. Alright, I think the video is already getting kind of long, so let me try to move on as quickly as possible. Scale lead guitar intersects with rhythm guitar. Jimi Hendrix's style is one of the best examples of this, although Stevie Ray Vaughan and Nuno Bettencourt, remember him, are also excellent examples. Rhythm guitar is not about playing chord shapes, and lead guitar is not about playing scale patterns. The lines will start to blur after you spend plenty of time doing both rhythm and lead, and like double stops is a lead guitar concept that's basically a variant of rhythm guitar, because, you know, for instance, the power chord, which you probably already played a million times, that's technically a double stop, even though it's a chord. But you know, double stops will more likely come in the form of you know the Chuck Berry type solos that I hope you've seen. You know, I should have got an example of this, but I wasn't planning on talking about double stops. That's just something I brought up. But you know, rhythm, again, you know, 8th notes, quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, such like that. I mean, there's rhythm in everything, but, you know, a lot of lead guitarists, I mean, I'm one of those people, my lead guitar abilities didn't get better until I started paying a lot more attention to rhythm. And trust me, if you take the time to do that, to learn about all those rhythm values and how to read them and how to hear them and pick them out in the solos you hear, You can learn solos a lot quicker, and you can create solos in a much more efficient fashion. All right, and become a student of music theory. I've been touching on music theory a lot throughout this whole thing, and I actually studied music theory ever since the time that I picked up a guitar. I just thought it was one of those things that every budding musician had to learn. I mean, a lot of musicians claim they don't know it, but they really do know it in some ways. If you use chords and scales in any way or fashion, you're using music theory. You're just you don't know it in a more academic way. But I'm not trying to be pedantic about this. I really want you to just become a better lead guitar player, and I think music theory just is a shortcut to doing that. Your ear will not always be the best guide because you'll always be referencing sounds you've heard before. I mean, there's a whole part of music theory called chromatic harmony, for instance, which it's all about breaking apart major scales and minor scales and the ways that chord progressions are typically made and making them in a much different fashion. 9 Inch Nails uses a lot of chromatic harmony. Actually, a lot of bands do. They just don't use as much chromatic harmony as maybe 9 Inch Nails does. 9 Inch Nails is one of my favorite bands, by the way. If you want to check out more about music theory, I have what I think is a great product about music theory. You can check it out over, again, in my link there, shop.playitloudblog.com. And it's very affordable, too. I think the price is only $7.95 for it. It's a 120-page ebook. And I go through all this stuff and more. All right. Well, you may argue with me about this, too, but I think you should learn licks, or get more serious, rather. I should add that. Get more serious about learning licks after you've done all this first, after you've learned about rhythms and, sought to become a better rhythm guitar player and to learn rhythms and to learn more about chords and scales because of music theory and learn the differences between genres and learn how to be a more melodic player and such. Because, again, like I said, I've been having to restock my repertoire lately and learn new licks and such, and it's helps me learn licks a whole lot quicker because I've done all these other things. But as I say in the first point here, there are no rules of learning lead guitar, but I believe this is the best way to go about it. Trust me. I made a lot of mistakes. I took a long time learning things that other people took a lot less time to learn, and I've actually started to take the idea of learning licks a lot more seriously lately. Because I went through all this stuff. Just remember to grab a couple of tab books of your favorite player's stuff. I mean, I have a whole bookcase in my house dedicated to just my music books, my tab books, and my theory books and such. All right, and we're done. Here you go. You may want to pause the video right here. And I'll try to be sure to put all these in the description, or whatever page you're on right now, I'll try to put a link to this. But you can pause this video right now and take down these links if you want. There's just some more stuff on my website that will go into more detail about some of the things that I touched on here. How to start picking what scales to use over which chords. There's a link. A unique detailed take on exotic scales. I'll go through some of Marty Freeman's stuff and some stuff about Japanese scales and Spanish sounding scales, like the Spanish Gypsy scale. I'll go through that, as well as I think one more. And how to play lead like Slash. That one's all about Slash. I love Slash. I love all the stuff that he did with Guns N' Roses. Specifically Appetite for Destruction, of course. I mean, great album, And if you're doubting yourself, if you don't think you can do a lot of things I've done, I also want to put the link to this other article that I wrote called The Truth About Talent. I'll go through a couple books I learned, like one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, Outliers, about, it's a really cool book. If you have time to check it out on Amazon. You probably see it in bookstores if you like to read books. I give you a lot of examples of people who really struggled for a long time to get good at what they were doing, and people said, oh, you're not that talented, you'll never be able to play lead guitar or write a great song or whatever. I mean, I just give you the truth about it. I mean, I personally don't think there's such thing as natural talent. There's only people who work at it and people who don't work at it. If you're willing to do the work, you'll get through all this fine. This will, watching this video and going through all these things, this will just be a very minor event in your quest to become a lead guitar. All right, well, that's it. I hope you learned a lot. Post a comment. If you're on YouTube watching this, if you have any questions, I'll be sure to check it. I hope you'll be nice. Sorry if I stuttered and smacked my lips or wasn't very clear on some things. I apologize. Just shoot me a comment or an email. I'll be happy to help you. All right, well, take care. Thanks a lot. Hope you learned something.